Just a little bit of context information. Harrow, northwest London. We've got 80 kilometres of rivers and watercourses and 67 flood defences, 13 flood storage areas, and quite a significant amount of water bodies and river and flood defence information assets. This is a map of the ordinary watercourses and rivers in Harrow, and these are some of the examples of flooding issues that we've had since late 1970s and through the 80s, which have driven us towards building some flood resilience into the borough. It's not quite as large scale as some areas in the country, but obviously it has been a problem, and these are headlines that have affected the council reputation insofar as flood defence. We started off building a timeline to have a look at historic flood events and where we were and what we could do to protect ourselves. Our record keeping was very good. This is an image from the Drain London Tier 1 survey to collect data for the surface water management plans. This also helps you build a case to your senior managers and members to show them the importance of what assets and what information you have, and you can start to quantify and put a value to the assets and the problems that you have got to deal with. This is before the Flood and Water Management Act. This is how we were set up as a drainage and survey team, and we worked very closely with planning and building control and land charges, and provide a consultancy to planning and how we manage surface water and surface water disposal across the borough. This is what we look like now. These are the flood defences across the borough and the flood storage areas, and you know, we're quite well protected now. The photos that you saw earlier are becoming less frequent now, and part of that is through management and maintenance of these assets through the year. This is our organisational structure now, the scope of the partnership, and we've talked about partnerships, and partnerships is quite important to how you build your asset management plan, and also your listing your inventories of the assets that you've got. And dialogue between all of these areas is quite important. It's very useful in collecting your data. This is where we first started. Before Flood and Water Management Act, we already had an access database, which was, we went to an outside software developer, and we did a concept review, and we used tried and trusted packages, and a requirement for us was to have it have the ability to talk to our GIS system, which is ArcView. The system also requires minimal training for those people that are going to use it, so new staff coming in, it's really easy to use. The data collection for it is obviously very important, and an earlier slide you saw that our record keeping had been very good over a long period of time. Obviously you'll need to look at historic documents and start to plot your assets and put location grid and postcode and all sorts of information, and use your PFRAs and swamps, consult your planning teams and also your emergency planners. And it's really about starting to build an asset management system that's going to deal with your needs locally. It's more about what you want rather than having a look at the national picture. Looking at it nationally is great, but I would constrain what you're going to do to your local needs. Look at your responsibilities as an LLFA, as a regulator. Be clear of your objectives, what you want your asset management system to do. Look at things on a risk-based approach and determine what other RMA responsibilities are and whether you want to include them. And also, that's been quite topical in some of the Drain London and Lowbeg discussions about what is a flood defence asset in itself, and there are wide-ranging definitions. And again, I would stick to what it is you want locally. Don't necessarily be driven by what somebody else wants or what somebody wants regionally or nationally. This was the first stab at our access database. Across the top there we've got tabs of all the various RMAs, and then there's a pick list of what type of asset that you're looking at, or what type of rivers and culverts and channels and so forth. That then goes to this screen where we have a list of all of our assets, a brief summary and description of the asset that you're looking at, and you can also go to a form here to fill in, and the information that we feed into that is coming from our watercourse maintenance teams, who will be out there weekly, monthly, looking at all of our assets and reporting back to us, so we can feed that information back in. That part is probably the most important part, we think. That provides us with the evidence base that we've been there, we've been to site. That protects us from insurance claims, and it also defends our reputation. There's also a button there to view these two types of documents. Our maintenance teams have a book of these documents, which is a mirror of what we've got in the office. And that provides them with the information of where it is, the postcode, the owner, and what schedule that they should be following, so a weekly, monthly, quarterly visit to these sites. And again, they will feed back to us any defects that we can then prioritise and put onto our work schedule. We followed that up. I'm going to move away slightly from flood defences. We built our own gully cleaning database, which was initially just for cleaning. So we've got something like a 15-year history on each gully asset, which has a grid reference for each asset, and it has a condition on it and like I say, a history of when it was cleaned. So I'm sure people quite often get phone calls saying the gully outside my house is blocked, it's smelling, it hasn't been cleaned for 10 years, etc. And we can go back and say, well, actually, yes, it was cleaned on these dates. We rolled that out to include for gully repairs. So we've got here, we can now tell people gully wasn't working, it was repaired on such and such a day. This was the contractor, this was how much it cost, and this is the repair that was undertaken. So we've got quite a lot of information there that we can provide to, like I say, defend ourselves and feed back to residents and members and senior managers. Post the Flood and Water Management Act, we took all of our spreadsheet records of flooding incidents and put them into this. All of the fields for the flood incidents form were driven or taken from the Drain London partnership meetings, and I think there was dialogue with DEFRA as well about what should and shouldn't be included in those fields. So just to summarise, this was developed over a number of years. Some modifications still needed to be done. It wasn't web-based, and also the next couple of slides will go on to the web-based system that's been developed, but we're also looking for the gully system, the use of, we're developing a phone application that will be used by the contractor, and they can be on site and clean a gully, and they can just press a button and that will come into our database, and that's live information that we've got, and it will make it easier for us to actually check what they're doing, because I'm sure anyone that's dealing with gully cleaning, it's a very difficult process, particularly in London, and the information, I should say that I've got very little confidence in the information that we've been getting over the past few years. This isn't a sell for flood station by any means. This flood station became more refined. The asset summary information and the asset details, documents that could be loaded up that provided you with the information of why a particular asset was built. All of the elements for its construction could be broken down into components, and you can start to prioritise and score each element to see which parts of a structure need to be maintained or replaced. And you can put certainly put some future forecasting into costs that you might incur over the next 5 or 10 years. The condition for scoring those can come from a number of different areas, and there's no given here. I don't think you really need to fit to suit yourself what you want to do with your asset management system. So you can use the Highways Act, you can use Contract Manual for Highway Works to score or set some standards on how you score these assets. That's the opening screen for flood station. Like I say, this is web-based application now, and it's a little bit more refined, a map and a photo. And this is the form that would be filled in to score individual assets, and that will set your maintenance schedules. There's been lots of other asset management systems that have been talked about over many years. I believe the Environment Agency are starting to develop, create asset management capacity now. I'm not quite sure where that is, but that should be replacing NFCDD and AIMS and PAMS. There's lots of lovely acronyms out there for these things. And you can see all the difficulties with the conflicts of 167 different types of culverts. There's no real right or wrong, I don't think, here. It really is up to you. If you're going to build an asset management system it's up to you to determine what you want, how you describe it, and how you're going to use it. We talked about partnerships, and these are two documents, or one document, sorry, policy document and drainage bylaws that we've used, and these also can be useful tools for you to support the reasons why you need an asset management system, and there's your evidence base of using those. And also other policies as well that can be used to convince senior managers and members that you need funds to build an asset management system. We've currently worked very closely with planners to put together our own development management policies. That's with the view of protecting our assets in the future and building long-term resilience into the flooding problems that we've got or had that are now being much reduced since the 1970s and 80s. I was asked to talk about designations quite briefly. It's designation in the Flood and Water Management Act. It's not something that we have used, and I think it's unlikely that we would use it. We think that we've got enough policies and there's enough legislation out there that can be used to not require us to designate flood defence assets, particularly retro designation, if you like, on existing structures that where it's unlikely that any homeowner or landowner is going to change, and particularly they wouldn't be able to do so because of our bylaws. And also I'll go through the last slide. I mean, very briefly, there's 4 conditions for designating, and these are the relevant RMAs who would be designating authorities. And there's a photo of a wall on a river, and I don't think there's any right or wrong there, but an interesting question perhaps, and I know it's been asked at other capacity workshops, is whether you would designate that wall as a flood defence. And as I said, retro designation of that I think would possibly be quite unfair. That property doesn't look in a very good condition particularly, and it may be that somebody's going to come in and buy it and redevelop it, and through the redevelopment you could get a better flood defence there anyway with cooperation, and that relates back to the partnership approach to everything you do. So I think partnership working is certainly relevant in terms of asset management as well, and you should consider building that into any asset management approach you have. Lastly, none of this has been done by design particularly. It's been done by need, and it's been done over 30 years. We don't have an asset management plan for it, and our department, our engineering department, has been looking to put together a highways asset management plan, and Atkins are in with us now, looking at all of our assets, not just highways and flood defences. But I'm not sure that I want to see another plan on the shelf to do this type of work that's being done without an asset management plan.